Michael Kelly, you're the visionary mind who started Eureka Street and a number of other initiatives along the way. You started Eureka Street alongside Adrian Lyons and Morag Fraser. I want to ask you, what did that discussion look like? Why start Eureka Street when you did?
Well, it was chaotic. Adrian wanted to create something approximating to the tablet, but he really had no idea what publishing was about, and he really had no idea what was involved in creating that and why the tablet worked, because it's in London and because it draws on a 150-year-old tradition and so on and so on. Well, first of all, the Jesuits have a long-standing tradition in print. If you look around the world, the Jesuits have had a range of publications. In England, there was the Months. In America, there was America. In Spain, there was Mensaje. And there were other things in Latin America, Etude in France. They have equivalent things in Germany. And then, of course, there's the grandfather of them all is La Civiltà Cattolica.
So those were the inspirations behind Eureka Street.
No, the inspiration as such, they're the models, various models of publishing are there. But the inspiration is the age-old Jesuit juxtaposition of faith and culture, and what does one have to offer the other, and what's happening in the wider world, politically, economically, culturally, that the Catholic tradition can address and have something to say about, that's both practical and realistic, but also theologically informed.
The juxtaposition between faith and culture, I like that. And that's still something that very much drives Eureka Street. Are there any stories in particular that you published during that time that stand out to you the most when you think back to those early years?
Come on, that's 30 years ago. Look, when you go back to that time, you go back to a different Australia. You really go back to a different Australia. And, we were looking to find a way. First of all, 30 years ago, to be Catholic and to be in the public space immediately invited suspicion, because it had been so dominated by Santa Maria, internationally by clerico-fascists. In all sorts of ways, it was a completely crowded space. And it was very hard to see how we could force an entry that would not be immediately suspected and people wouldn't be immediately suspicious of. Very hard. So that's what we really wanted to do. We wanted to say, look, we're Catholic and Christian, we're intelligent, we have a view. It's not the predictable view. It's not a view that you just get, a knee-jerk response to. That's what you got with a lot of other Catholic publications that either were there to protect the interests of bishops or were there to protect a particular take on Catholicism. There were various ones like that, various people and institutions that took those sort of perspectives and did those sort of things. Now, can't do much about that. That's just there, and that's what we did, and that's how we got there. So we moved beyond that and created our own voice. Morag was very big in that because she was the dominating editor for so long. She gave it its voice, and Eureka Street became her platform. So yeah, that was pretty strong, and that was the way it unfolded.
How did you meet Morag?
Church, actually. She used to sing at St Carthage's, and the then parish priest, who subsequently left the clergy and went to the ABC, Terry Laidler, wanted to recreate or reinvent or revitalise the Catholic Worker, which was a distinctly Melbourne publication, and Morag and I were involved in that. And then I appreciated that she's a good writer, and I thought she'd be a good editor. And I personally wanted, both lay influence and a female. So Morag ticked all those boxes.
I mean, you said before that Eureka Street is unpredictable, and it seems to be that part of the a characteristic that's baked into the DNA of Eureka Street is it is unpredictable, and it's hard to neatly put into a single box. Like you look at the vast array of writers and vast array of content, and sort of it can be quite mercurial or hard to classify. Was that always a part of what Eureka Street was? Just kind of being unpredictable?
We just didn't want to be contained and controlled. The thing that goes with Catholicism very often is unless it's controlled, it becomes intimidating. And we wanted to make sure that we weren't controlled, but we didn't want to be intimidating. We wanted to be listened to, engaged with, and we wanted to be listening and engaging ourselves. So that was certainly our purpose and our aim, and we did that. But of course, the consequence of that is that a whole lot of people out there remain intimidated by us, despite our best intentions.
Did you ever find any success at bringing those people to the table, or was it just a matter of...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, we brought a lot of people to the table and got on with it and did useful things. But, we were never going to be mainstream and, celebrated and all that sort of stuff. We were always going to be edgy.
That's an inherent part of Eureka Street's appeal, I think.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, Eureka Street's published some luminaries of Australian writing over the years. Are there any writers that stand out to you, or writers that you found offered a particularly unique or valuable set of gifts to the conversation over the years?
Well, there are ones that I've enjoyed reading. I always enjoy reading Michael McGurr. I think there are others, Barry Gittins, I've enjoyed reading him. There are some people, Jack Waterford was always very, very good value. They'd be the sort of people I'd be thinking of.
We discussed a lot about kind of the founding ethos behind Eureka Street. Was there any point in your thinking where you were sort of thinking that this would become a long-standing publication? It's been going for 30 years. Did you ever anticipate it would have that kind of lifespan?
Yeah. Because the other critical person in the whole genesis of two critical people, but one more than the other, in the genesis of the whole Eureka Street enterprise was Peter Steele, who's a deceased former provincial of the Jesuits, and then Bill Uren. Now, these were guys who wanted to do things for the long haul. They had a very strong grip on the Jesuit ethos and the Jesuit intellectual heritage, and they saw this as something that stuck and that lasted, and that it already had a big impact in Australia and an even bigger impact internationally, and they thought that this was a platform for doing that.
So it was part of the plan. It's working as well, and Bill Uren, I mean, he had an article published by us this week, I think it was.
Yeah, that's right.
It's fantastic to see that it is still around. You look at publications that were started in 91, and the vast majority of them have no longer exist, which must be a comforting thought.
Well, yeah, but also you've got to recognise that the Jesuits are one of those long-term patient banker type investors in things of lasting cultural significance. So you look at the other ones that are around, Saturday newspaper and other things like that. They're founded by people who have a bit of money and have a long-term view. And that's what the Jesuits are. They've got the resources, they've got the reach, they've got the perspective and the philosophy, and so they should do it. This really grew up among friends, and that, vision and commitment are important things, but also love is very important. And the sort of ways in which we loved each other and found life with each other and contributed life to each other. And that's got to be part of of any creative enterprise. Otherwise, it just goes pear-shaped.